Vani Saraswati Vagdevi Veenadharini Palaya Mam Lokashastra Paripalini Devi Vidyarupini Palaya Mam Bhagavati Bharati Girvani Pannagaveni Palaya Mam Muktidayini Mokshapradayini Pustakapani Palaya Mam Vani Saraswati Vagdevi. All right, so welcome everyone back to day 3, and thank you for remembering to come back. It's Maya is such that the world is full of distractions, and we have so many other competing interests which naturally keep us elsewhere. So to remember to come back is in itself a gift that you can give me as a teacher here. Thank you. So what have we learned in the previous sessions? I just put a few things. Perhaps you can help me fill up a few others. We said experience is a key to practice of Sanatana Dharma. And for that, we quoted Adi Shankaracharya's Viveka Chodamani Shloka, Nagachati Vinapanam Vyadhir Aushada Shabdataha Vina Parokshanubhavam Brahma Shabdair Namuchyate. Without consuming the aushada, the medicine, just as an illness doesn't go away, get treated, and just by uttering the name of the medicine, nothing happens. Similarly, just by uttering that I am the Brahman, I am enlightened, it doesn't really work that way. You have to experience, you have to become enlightened. We looked at the concept of Vidya and Avidya and how lopsided our education system is nowadays, where there's too much of predominance of avidya and very little of vidya. We're not saying that only vidya has to be taught. And time immemorial, even in ancient Indian context, they both have been taught. And but it was always the case that vidya was one of the core features of the teaching methodology. On day 2, we looked at wisdom and rationality, and we looked at how both are important in ensuring that we actually kind of work towards the path of realizing the truth ourselves. Rationality, purely rationality at the expense of negating wisdom, leads to a level of intolerance and exclusivist kind of an attitude, whereby for everything a proof is required. So the effort is very labored and very hard on the mind as well, because it's a mind's work. Rationality is mind's work. Whereas one can say, if we are to compare, wisdom is more of the heart's work. There is an element of experience that comes into play, and rationality is to be used in conjunction with wisdom. So both are important. And we also did the exercise of designing the universal law. Anything else that we covered that I missed and you found helpful or interesting? Or was it too far away into the past that you don't remember what happened? Anything else that we covered?
Well, I don't think so. I think all the points are related.
Covered there. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, let's move on then. So why do we need spirituality and science and Sanatana Dharma, the eternal bond, the two topics we're going to cover today. And tomorrow we'll continue with science and Sanatana Dharma, of course. So we have questions like these, right? Does God exist and why do we need spirituality? I'm quoting Deepak Chopra here because I think it's very well said. Religion is belief in someone else's experience, whereas spirituality is having your own experience. So if that's the case, one who is a religious adherent would argue that if that's the case, everyone is free to have his own religion. Yes, why not? After all, we are allowed, if we are to freely choose, theoretically, it is possible that we can have millions of religions based on individuals' experience. But it's still always better than having to believe in somebody else's experience and making it your own. If that's the case, you're not exercising several other tools given to you to utilize. And one of them is Viveka, the Buddhi. The Antakaranas are four, as is told: Manas, Buddhi, Ahankara, and Chitta. If Buddhi is given to us, it is to be used. But if we only use Manas, which is just to kind of think, and the decision is made to believe in something, somebody else's experience, and you're not using your Viveka anymore, what's the point in having it? So they're not the same. So I'm going to define it my way. These are not textbook definitions. This is what I believe would encapsulate some of the terms that we are going to use. On day one, we use the three terms. We use religion, we use Sanatana Dharma, and science as three different distinct terms. Spirituality is sincere and consistent practice with moksha or liberation as the goal. Dharma then is a path which helps us to stay on that spiritual course. Now, there is something we can call as individual's faith or swadharma, but it's not to be confused with the concept of swadharma which is spoken of in Bhagavad Gita, but let's call it swasya dharma, one's faith. So the individual's chosen belief system in which he has complete freedom to choose his or her practice of spiritual path. How does it work? Like, for instance, I have explored, just as Adi Shankara has said, I've done my part of experiencing the knowledge that was handed over, let's say, through the scriptures. So, Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam. And I've come to conclude that my experience is actually true. And it is actually worthy of practicing. And I now completed my experiment, and now I'm manufacturing. I'm into the what is it called, process line or something. So I'm actually putting it into practice. So I'll call it individual's faith, my faith. Now, because my faith is giving results to me, or it is showing something to the others, they may choose to follow me. If I tell them that, look, you are free to follow what I'm practicing, but I'm not going to say that this is the only way you have to practice. This is possibly true for me, but you should experience it yourself. That would be Sanatana Dharma. But on the other hand, I found the truth, and this is the experience, and this is the only experience, and all of you have to follow the same thing. That is the organized religion. So you can see that religion is a term used not just by me. That's why I quoted Deepak Chopra, where it says it is believing one's experience, somebody else's experience. That's the main difference between what we can call as my own matam. Matam is the word used, at least in Telugu. In Hindi, unfortunately, the word dharma is used for religion, which is actually not doing justice to dharma, unfortunately. I think words have to be extremely important, carefully used. Matam or mati. Mati is the mind, Matam is swamatam. In Sanskritam, the word matam is used. Tasya matam, his matam, his opinion. That is the way it is used. So if it is my matam, I have my own mind. Same does somebody else. All of you have your own minds. We are not going to think alike, do we? I mean, am I going to think exactly like how Lalita thinks or Dr. Mohan Raj thinks? No. We all have unique um, memories, unique way of leading our life, the personality, or even if we extend it to the past karmas, we have such a huge cosmic life we carry forward with us that surely we have our own matam. It concludes to my mind thinking in a certain way. So therefore, matam is that. If matam is to be one's experience and everybody wants to follow it, you can now see the danger in it, because when we can't even think the same on one particular aspect, it is unlikely that we're going to agree on something as abstract as a concept of divinity. So beware. We need to be careful when we choose religion or spirituality. Organized religion is one in which the followers are expected to arrive at the same opinion. And this is impossible as every individual mind thinks differently. The followers essentially believe and follow what was codified by the founder of the religion instead of experiencing the truth themselves. Hence, there is no spiritual freedom in these modern religions, which are unfortunately creating chaos in the world, have done so for the last 2000 years onwards. History has been witness to the extreme restrictions and punishments if religion was not adhered to as prescribed. Millions of non-believers have either been converted to religion by force or coercion or eliminated. This still happens in some countries in the name of God. Such practices are actually against the very divine universal principles. The dangers of religion. When a spiritual text is no more a guide but becomes a command, religion is born then. Choose wisely. So as long as somebody with their experience has written a beautiful spiritual text, like for instance, let's say autobiography of the yogi, and he has written his own autobiography. Now, he's not going to say that you have to follow only this and this is my command. Otherwise, God will be cursing you. He will be unhappy. Especially if you actually kind of bow down to any other God, he will be extremely kind of upset with you. That is a religion. Spirituality. So you would see the terms interchangeably used here. Spirituality, Atma Vidya, and Sanatana Dharma will be interchangeably used. So spirituality is a sincere and consistent practice, which we said earlier. It is the knowledge that all pervasive Paramatma, the cosmic divinity, and me, the Atma, residing in this body are the same. And this is the truth, and this is Vidya, says Sanatana Dharma. If the entire ocean is the Paramatma, and I'm the tiny droplet in it, both have the same quality. Quantitatively, we are different. Qualitatively, we are the same. So these are kind of simple ways of explaining. So spiritual freedom is definitely essential to experience Atma Vidya. If you want to understand the concepts, you need to kind of develop your own jijnasa, the curiosity to gather the knowledge, and thereafter free yourself to be experiencing Atma Vidya. what seems like spirituality but is not. I think we need to have a look at this. Ideal human values, for instance, somebody said way of life. Sanatana Dharma is a way of life. What's the problem with that? So spirituality includes ideal human conduct, but is more than that. Example, being honest, being sincere, dedicated, timekeeping. Those are all beautiful human values. Love, patience, right? And when we are not equipped with the idea of Sanatana Dharma, when somebody challenges that, isn't it good enough to have these values, these qualities for ideal human conduct? Why do you need anything else? We say, yes, absolutely. This is more than enough. But mind you, that is only part of spirituality. So there's more to it than just the ideal human conduct. Similarly, saying spirituality, or let us say, for instance, Sanatana Dharma is a way of life, it's very non-specific in the sense, as I gave the example, if I wake up in the morning, do all my household chores, sincerely reach my work on time, do all the work there and come back and be good to society, that's my way of life. Another's way of life. Now, just words are very important, as I said. Another way of life could be that I party every day and I drink and I lie and I behave in an opportunistic fashion. That's my way of life. So therefore, the very word way of life is, in terms of terminology, is not good enough to explain spirituality or Sanatana Dharma, because it's devoid of terms such as divinity or spirituality. So if somebody says it is a way of spiritual life, that's a better expression. But somehow I see that people are shy of using the word spiritual or divine when it comes to just describing Sanatana Dharma. They just say way of life. I'm sure you can understand the gap there. The courage to use the right terms and courage to describe the concepts has to come, and it should be an essential fundamental part of practicing Sanatana Dharma. Without courage, we will give undue importance to everything else that eats into the concept of Sanatana Dharma. I hope I've made it clear. So religion, so spirituality overlaps with religion, but it's not the same as religion is prescribed to be followed. We looked at it. Sri Kamalesh Patel, who now is the Guruji of Heartfulness, which is also called a Sri Ramachandra Mission. They practice what is called as Sahaj Marg Raj Yoga. So experience of self is what differentiates spirituality from religion. So not much different to what we have looked at previously. Now, it's important to have some historical perspective of where we come from. Until pre-20th century in Asia, especially in India, health and education primarily revolved around spirituality. Atma Vidya, we're talking about Atma Vidya here. You take Ayurveda, it is holistic because it includes the spiritual component in it. In modern health, spirituality isn't part of it. So hence I can argue that it is not holistic. Right now, the secular way of understanding health as holistic is, let's say, in terms of biological, psychological, and social, is what we would say as the triad to understand mental health problems. But I would argue that spirituality is also an important component. And it's being realized now, and I've shared one video of the Royal College of Psychiatrists. I hope this time at least people have watched without failing, because videos are not going to be played in the sessions. They would need to be watched before you come to the sessions. So I've shared a video of the Royal College of Psychiatrists, which is from UK and which I'm part of. And we have a subspecialty group called spirituality, and how spirituality is helpful in mental health problems. So what about education? Education is heavily secularized as well. There is absolutely no need for secularizing education in India, but it went that way because we just copy pasted the Western model. In India, the education has always been fundamentally scientific and systematic in approach. There's no need to worry that dogma plays in. It was never the case. By keeping spirituality out of the education, we already looked at it on day one, which is nothing but Vidya. We have actually dug a big hole for ourselves and we are unable to come to grips with it. Keep religion out of school. Very true. We need to keep religion out of school, but not spirituality. I hope there will be course correction. Spirituality has to be included in education as well. Religion should be kept out. It has no place in education. Ayurveda is a prime example where spiritual component is inherently embedded in the solution. We already spoke about it. But with modern scientific revolution, spirituality has been relegated to what would be called a pseudoscience, largely as a victim of being tagged with religion. Sanatana Dharma has been a victim of being tagged with religion. The process of despiritualization of health and education is unique to modern times, and this comes from the firm understanding that science requires objective evidence and spirituality can't deliver it, which is understandable. If I was a scientist in modern times, I wouldn't accept anything which is not, which is lacking in objective evidence. Because the world has seen too much of dogma, because everything and anything was being touted as truth and nothing but the truth as per religion. And because of that, we have seen dark ages in Europe. And it is only after a long battle, having lost a few great minds, that they have finally come out of the clutches of religion. And they don't want to allow that situation to come back again. Because objective evidence now plays an important role. It's able to keep dogma out. Spirituality cannot give you objective evidence. We will talk about it tomorrow. Hence, we have to rely a lot on subjective research. So a typical example of despiritualization is of yoga. The way yoga is practiced in modern world is heavy on aesthetics, physical fitness, and commodification. And quite a few of you perhaps know the idea of digesting. This is the term used by Rajiv Malhotra in his books as well. How the certain religions in the world had this habit of capturing cultures and civilizations and making inroads into those civilizations by digesting the cultural elements and discarding what they didn't think suits them and taking in what suits them. So this is what is called as digestion, and it happens a lot currently in the world as well. So we have problems there too. However, one needs to look at the evidence for the utility of yoga, for instance, as a holistic kind of tool for the welfare. I quote here a yoga therapy for stroke book written by two occupational therapists from Hawaii. I think they are from Hawaii. And yoga is a holistic intervention that treats mind and body. It can lead to physical, cognitive, and emotional improvement. Yoga is an ancient practice, has many modern day applications for health and well-being. So we know for sure that it has a lot of application when practiced holistically. Let's not make a mistake here again. Let's not talk about the physical asanas of yoga. We are talking about holistic application of yoga. So alienation of Sanatana Dharma was from schools. We have already looked at it. But I'll just read through. In this era of globalization, the secular model of education has become the norm, and spirituality and Sanatana Dharma is confused with religion. Hence, due to despiritualization, human values are taught as ethics and morals, which is part of spirituality, but not the same. I showed this video if anybody had watched this. The reason I actually shared this video, the last samurai, this is the last king of Japan, I believe. I don't know if they had emperors after that, but at least according to the movie, no, he wasn't the last. It's the last samurai, so not the last king. Never mind. So during his time, there were a lot of compulsions to change the way Japan kind of conducted itself. So a lot of influence, Western influence in terms of dressing, he actually quotes that. He says, we have resorted to Western clothing and this and that. But he realized that having almost kind of destroyed all the samurais, and finally the last samurai dies as well, and then it dawns upon him the mistake he has committed. And he says, we should not forget who we are and where we come from, no matter how modern we wish to we aspire to be. So please do watch it. It's a very important video in the context of where we are as a cultural civilization that we are. Where do we stand right now? Who are we? What do we represent? And where are we going from here? These are important questions for us to answer. I also talk about what is called as individual's spiritual disconnect. Now, it is me alone, for instance, let us say, as an example, I sit down in the morning, I do all my pujas to declare that there is God, and God is the only supreme power, and everything runs according to God. Let us say I've done all that puja. The same me goes into an educational space as a teacher, and over there, I behave as if God doesn't exist, because the system demands that. And I may actually even be hypocritical about it by even making claims about God's absence. I'll give an example later which may be useful. Similarly, if the same me, does all the puja and whatnot, all the praising the Lord kind of stuff in my private space, and then I go to a scientific lab and I make advances and I declare to the world that there isn't anything that is to be believed beyond what objective evidence shows. There's a dichotomy there. So the dichotomy actually sometimes is unavoidable, fair enough. That's why we often say that please practice your faith privately in your home. That's fine. But the problem is about lack of consistency in those where they may do all sorts of God fearing stuff or God praising stuff privately, but when it comes to a secularized space or a scientific space, they behave just the opposite. I often quote this example, which I had personally in a workshop that I was conducting in Visakhapatnam. So in the front row, there was a principal of a particular school that he was sitting there. And at the end of my session, because most of my sessions bring in spiritual aspect into psychological well-being. And I was, at the end of the session, he said, Doctor, I have a question for you. How come you believe in all this? Is what he said. And I wasn't even talking about religion. I was talking about spiritual stuff. So I asked him a simple question. I can, just like how I'm putting the sindoor today. I asked him, you have sindoor on your face, and so that does it mean that you actually believe in God or divinity or something? Uh, oh, no, 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 no. This is because my friend asked me to go to a temple, is what he said, which I believe is a hypocritical answer. He couldn't own up that because he asked the question, he couldn't own up that he actually is kind of faithful to his God, for instance. I mean, it's so easy to lie. It was so easy to lie, and that shows the shallowness of the practice. There's no depth to what the person believes in and owns because there is no experience involved in it. We have so many shallow practitioners like this who are bad representatives of Sanatana Dharma. The shallowness is so easy to be palpated that because underneath that, as I said, the rotten trees don't last long. You just need to knock them and they'll just fall. It's like that. The shallow practitioners are bad ambassadors of Sanatana Dharma because underneath that, conceptually, they have not got the strength to be consistent with themselves in and out. So this is something else we need to be careful about. I'll take a pause here. I'm just going to ask if anybody wishes to ask anything for clarification or make any comments, because it's important I give space for these kind of things to be debated or even discussed if need be.
Doctor, this is Manoj.
Yeah, Manoj, hi.
My question is, I mean, for us, I'm very thankful to you that you're taking this session, you're teaching it to us. This is not at all taught in schools, in colleges. That's where it is actually required. The children become aware of this. Students who are going to lead the country become aware of this. I'm wondering what they're still kept on the road, religion and stuff. Outside of school, college, they're taught religion at home, and this spirituality should be taught in the schools as well. I mean, Catholic schools in the countries, in Western countries, teach this. They especially take admission of Christians only to Catholic schools. But in India,
Yeah. Okay. So basically, you're echoing the sentiment about how we are failing in utilizing the educational space for dharmic awareness. And that's not religion at all anyway, as we discussed. So we are actually in the process preparing a lot of mechanical minds, and the result then would be a lot of shallowness in a lot of areas. And to answer a lot of questions that the world will see in future, it requires a cosmic perspective, because we are not going to be earthly beings alone. We are sending things into the space. And it's a matter of time, I guess, in about a few decades, all religions will vanish from the face of earth because they can't stand the scrutiny of a scientific mind. They have lived all these decades or centuries through oppression or through coercion, by deceit. They actually bank on a mind's vulnerability. The fear is the biggest kind of catch that they hold on to. So, but this is where we are going to, if at the same time we don't instill the spiritual qualities in humans, we are going to bring in two factions into play. One, the materialistic kind of quest for progress at the expense of utilizing all the resources of that the earth or other even planets and moon, God knows, even moon will be explored and kind of exploited. So that's a lot of materialistic kind of progress. On the other hand, we will have a lot of religious dogma which keeps us in the dark ages or oppressed. A holistic viewpoint and holistic well-being, including environment, including the animals and including everything, the welfare of everything, including humans and the societal building in a meaningful way, can only come through spirituality. And so, yeah, we have a lot of work to do. We don't know where we are heading, surely. We have another challenge, which is through the gadgets and how much we are now kept busy with the life in gadgets, the virtual life, the virtual space, because it's extremely entertaining and it keeps us very busy. And there you don't apply anything. You just apply your senses to watch, listen. There's nothing else you do. So there's a problem there as well. Life goes on wasted in that way as well. So we have a challenge there too. So I have more questions there rather than answers at this point of time. All right. Anybody else wishes to say anything? Of course, it'll be good to hear from you guys. Yeah.
Thanks for explaining.
All right, let's move on then.
So I have one question, sir, or maybe I would like to hear your comment about it. I thought somebody's saying something and I waited. Hi, this is Vamsi again.
Yeah.
Thanks. Nice seeing you again. Sorry, I don't have my video today.
Okay.
The question I have is, initially today you touched base on saying that scientifically we always try to find a logic. We always try to reason before we accept something. So that kind of falls in line with the yoga, the spirituality, the awareness. Again, I'm not talking about the religion. We're discussing about religion here. I'll get to that in a minute. But the spirituality wise, so the westernization of the last samurai, like mentioned in the last samurai, I'm just asking for a comment here, not a clarification or anything. This is something that goes in my mind. So what do we say, or how should we go about the food and clothing? Do we have to wait till the world realizes, okay, now the turmeric is a favorable food than before? So do we wait for the whole world or the Western culture to catch up? And do we wait for their acceptance of the benefits till somebody or till we start practicing it? Again, it comes back to clothing. So, like I said, it's only a clarity. I have these questions in myself since I thought this is the relevant topic. So
Sure.
I asked.
So yeah, I guess if I understood your question, it's about if we understand the values of inheriting certain things, as I guess I'm going to utilize, rephrase possibly just to see if it is what you're saying. So what we have inherited as part of, let us say, wisdom, and the turmeric and such things are part of the wisdom, and the challenges brought in from the modern world, and what is our role in actually kind of making them being more pronounced, and perhaps the benefits to be practiced or to be practiced by everyone as much as possible, I guess. So, so if I put it this way, see, let us say, for instance, I'll take my case. I found value in Sanatana Dharma, and I found value in its application in day-to-day life. As a psychiatrist, I'm interested in healthy living, holistic living. And I wondered, why can I do something about it? So I started doing workshops and webinars basing the principles of Sanatana Dharma in holistic well-being. I often actually sometimes wonder if I'm selling my religion, right? Let's say I call it religion for argument's sake here, just to kind of be provocative. Am I selling it? Is that my goal? Is that my purpose? If that's the case, let us say one fine day I die. And I realized that after all that I was speaking about, there's no God at all. All that was made out of nothing. It's a false claim, let us say. I've not only fooled myself, I've fooled everyone as well. Second thing is, if I actually am giving benefit out of sessions for individuals to realize the importance of principles in their day-to-day life, and they can make their lives peaceful, they can bring their emotions to balance, they can be clear in their choices and critical in their thinking. Actually, that's the better benefit, isn't it? That's more tangible benefit. So to answer that doubt, if at all it comes, this is where our dharma is extremely beautiful. We have laukika and alaukika, paramarthika, laukika and paramarthika. Laukika is here and now. Paramarthika is the spiritual, the cosmic part. It has applications for both at the same time, simultaneously. So it has applications simultaneously. So now you go back to think, what am I doing this for? I'm doing it for my own spiritual growth. And as I grow, I want others to enjoy the same knowledge for their own spiritual growth or spiritual well-being. But at the same time, I am applying this same knowledge in my day-to-day life, helping myself balance my emotions and thinking and whatnot, because none of us are perfect, obviously. So we are utilizing them to make ourselves better human beings. And I'm helping others do the same. So to answer your question, if you find the connection at all or not, I take it that way anyway. So the way is that if you find benefit in doing something, then you should practice it. You should then be in a position to propagate it. Propagate it in the sense you have found that to be useful, not just to you. So you're not keeping the knowledge only to you. You're then allowing others to feel the benefit out of it. So whether it is turmeric, whether it is yoga, whether it is something else, whatever you learn, share as well. How much you learn, how much you know, share it with others. That should be the way we need to approach. Otherwise, we will be on the losing end, because the predatory forces are too many in nature, and they are extremely manipulative, and how they give you space to even kind of think and feel even organized to go about. So I'm not sure whether I have kind of answered your question, but
You rephrased my question correctly, but like you said, I did not make a connection between your answer and the beginning of it. My question, simply put, is I like to eat Chinese noodles. I'm not sitting here and say that, okay, I will only eat curry. By doing that, am I giving in or bending the rules for the Sanatana Dharma, or accepting something saying that, okay, ice cream is your go-to feel-good source instead of doing something else? Am I giving into some other unproven culture than sticking to my own roots? That's more of my question.
Yeah, don't even worry about it. It's not so narrow-minded. Sanatana Dharma is about liberating yourself.
Does it mean we are bending
As
rules?
long as you are true to yourself, that is what matters. It is not
Okay.
about rules or regulations. There are no diktats. You need to be true to yourself, full stop. And we are free to explore and accept, embrace whatever seems to be true to you from wherever it comes from. It doesn't matter. Whether it is food or clothing. Of course, naturally, if I go in a dhoti to Western climate and I feel extremely cold and I have a frostbite or even a chappal, am I not going to wear a woolen clothing and woolen socks and so on? So that is the truth there, and you have to accept it. So I would be least concerned about your choices as long as you are true to yourself.
Can I make a comment, please?
And who is this?
Mohan Raju.
Yeah, please go ahead.
See, now the problem we are facing is the spiritual truths which are said in the scriptures cannot be scientifically proved. The thing is, Swami Vivekananda made a relevant comment telling that to prove something, you need the basic requirements. Say, for example, in a chemical lab, you have to prepare a substance means you should have an ingredient, proper conditions, temperature, things like that, and proportion. Then you mix it and you can get that. The spiritual truths also can be proved objectively and it can be felt, provided you follow the same steps. The simple truth is, whoever practiced this spirituality, ultimate realization, all the yogis, all great people, is the same. It's very astonishing. Whatever pathway you go, ultimately the end result is the same. So that means the truth is the same and the perceivable ways are different. So for this, Ramakrishna Parahamsa made an objective experiments in Dakshineswar. So where he practiced all the methods which are given in Vaishnava scriptures, in Tantras, 64 tantric ways of doing that, and Bhakti movement, everything. He practiced whatever given in the scriptures, ultimately he realized the truth and he proved it. So he provided you follow the steps given in the scriptures as it is, you can ultimately realize the truth. If you realize the truth, then you can perceive everywhere the same truth and the same the consciousness, whatever you call it, is evidently existing everywhere the same. So your perception changes once you realize that. So before that, what we are thinking, we are reading something and we are believing, okay, you do that. So whatever the customs we are following, that is not spirituality, but it is traditionally given to us. It has some religious or spiritual tint in it. So that, okay, we follow it. So we may not be scientifically explain why you put the sindura, why you do this,
I think
why you feel this.
Yes, definitely. You made some very wonderful observations there. And I think to just kind of summarize that aspect, the proof is only to the person who is experiencing. It can't be proven to anybody else because it is beyond objective manifestation beyond that. The second thing is that I think, as I said, we need to be very clear with the terminology. Religion has to be utilized in the context as it is described as an English word. Now, I think we need to be clear what would be the Sanskritam equivalent of it. And the Sanskritam equivalent, we have to be clear. We need to be the ones to describe it. It can't be somebody else. The worldview is like, for instance, the Abrahamic faiths. They define their religions, and based on their parameters, they call everything else accordingly. naturally they either look at whether something fits into their religion or doesn't fit into their religion. It can't be the case from our viewpoint. We need to be really looking at what is dharma and what is adharma. We need to describe accordingly. So religion is unfortunately a word which is very loosely used and includes Sanatana Dharma. We should try and stay away from using that word to represent Sanatana Dharma. If at all, let us use it as Dharma, Sanatana Dharma, that's it. Now, any practice, let us say we have matas, Shan matas. They are not religions, because religions are diktats, commands. Both the religions, both the Abrahamic faiths, they have commanded that this book is the truth. Beyond this, there is nothing. Nothing is true. That is not the nature of our matas in Shanmata concept. None of them say that. They basically are guides. There's a fundamental ideological difference. We should not fall prey to these kind of viewpoint. It's really embarrassing for us to kind of always look through the Western eyes and then decide for ourselves whether it is this or not. No, it shouldn't be the case. You have to have your own tools and your own prisms. It's almost like me as Srinivas, I'm also always looking for Mohan Raj or somebody else to tell me who I am. I should be the one to say who I am, but that doesn't happen. So these are fundamentals we need to really address before we, it's already late. It's already practically I am actually reading MA Sanskritam. There are books written and the references are actually quoted from the British translators of Sanskritam texts. It shows that we have not been doing our homework at all. So all the books talk about they use the words the Aryans, for instance. These are all old books and they're still getting printed. They use the word Aryans and then they use the history for them is only 1500 BC. They can't think beyond it. So we have not been doing the homework and we need to be very clear as to where we stand. It is not about we versus them. It's about, are you being true to yourself and how much effort are you placing? Okay, so Surendranathji's question is, can anybody from a religion follow the path of spirituality? Absolutely. Spirituality is for everyone. Just as Sanatana Dharma, everyone is, by the way, everyone is born into Sanatana Dharma. They take religions later on because Sanatana Dharma is the kind of Atma Vidya. You are born that state and then it's the mind's work, the beliefs start in and religions are accepted. So spirituality is for everyone. There's no problem at all. Okay, so why do we need spirituality? Of course, I think, as I said, I've mentioned about this particular video. You can watch it. Brian Weiss is one of the psychiatrists who has done past life regression therapy, is pioneered, and there are a lot of others who have done it as well. In his words, we need to share this knowledge with everyone. What knowledge is he talking about? Spiritual knowledge. We have been given more capacity than we can grasp. Everyone should make effort to reach the state of realization. We have taken birth to learn lessons to progress spiritually. That is the purpose of life. This is Brian Weiss, quoted from Brian Weiss's books. Dr. Michael Newton is another psychologist. He passed away, he's no more, but he's written a couple of great books called Journey of Soul and Destiny of Soul. And I think another one called Life Between Lives. I think so, Life Between Lives. And these are important books to read as well, which talks about the concept of Atma, the souls, the reincarnations, They all talk about karmic concepts very consistently. Everything that we need to understand in this world is there in our mind. We have been given the ability to grasp the subtle aspects of universe. We just need to tap into it. So I'm going to just introduce a few terms which we will utilize in the exploration phase. And that will be the key to the title, Bring Out the Best in You, the Sanatana Dharma Way. Love and kindness, of course, this is nothing but the state of Satchit Ananda. The Ananda is the contentment. Karuna, compassion. Swadharma is the loyalty to one's own dharma. We will talk about that. Those in the green we will cover. Samadrishti, equanimity. Nishchaya buddhi, which is the decisiveness. Satya, the truth. Titiksha, the tolerance. Nirbhaya, the fearlessness. Attached to that is the concept of immortality, Shashvata. Trikarna Shuddhi, unison in thought, word, and action. Kama Karma, detachment to the results. Sthita Prajnata, the balance of emotions. And Swaswarupa Parijnana. Swaswarupa Parijnana is self-awareness. Actually cover this entirely in one different module called Discover Yourself. And Satya also, the concept of truth and its application in our daily life. We talk about it from a cognitive point of view. How do we help in our thinking process? That is called as Discover Your Inner Potential. So those are not covered here in this webinar. Those are covered in different other webinars. Okay, so so Nishkama Karma, Nishchaya Buddhi, Sthita Prajnata, Swadharma, Trikarna Shuddhi, and Atma Gauram. I shared a few blogs in the past. I can keep sharing them again so people can read. So we're now going to talk about science and Sanatana Dharma. Remember, I spoke about them being eternal, both science and Sanatana Dharma, and they have always been there together, and almost like the Arthanarishwara. The comparison is that because it's two sides of the same coin, one can say. I shared this video as well of Alan Watts. I hope people had a chance to have a look. So what is Sanatana Dharma close or distant to? Religion or atheism? What would be your answer? Shyamala says, I watched all videos you posted, all are thought-provoking. Thank you. Okay, what is Sanatana Dharma close or distant to? Religion or atheism? Any answers?
I will say religion.
Shubhang says religion, close to religion. Okay, I think Vamsi also says religion. Shri, well, none is not an answer. I didn't ask the question, what is Sanatana Dharma? Is it a religion or atheism? I didn't ask that. I said, what is it close to or distant to? So none is obviously not the answer. So those who have said religion, maybe Shubhang, you can answer. Why do you choose religion?
Okay, so I think that like it's close to religion because it speaks a lot about like so in Sanatana Dharma. Sorry for the background noise. So Sanatana Dharma is like the stories and stuff like that. It speaks a lot about like God and stuff like that. And atheism is completely no gods, none of this, none of that, just science. But there is science in Sanatana Dharma as well. But like when it comes to atheism in general, it's science and nothing past that. Sorry, but like when it comes to Sanatana Dharma, it's science and spirituality, which I just don't think atheism has.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, so anybody else wants to have a go? Sorry, I have to leave for a meeting. Yes, Mr. Rao, you can. I'm not sure of the aspects of atheism. Why not? Okay, so let's look at it this way. We heard Subhang nicely articulate what he said. Sanatana Dharma and religion have something common in them because that they talk about divinity as a concept. So there is something common about it. What is not common between those two? Sanatana Dharma allows the systematic scientific way of inquiry. Religion does not allow that. Religion doesn't have that concept. The questions are not allowed. You just have to believe, that's it. And that's where they're different. Atheism and Sanatana Dharma are not similar just as Subhang says, atheism has nothing to do with divinity as a concept, whereas Sanatana Dharma, the core feature is that it accepts the concept of divinity. The similarity is atheists ask questions. They ask a lot of questions and they do challenge dogmas. They don't take anything just at the face value. So they ask a lot of questions. Sanatana Dharma is based on questions as well. Sanatana Dharma, a lot of questions. There is no end to it. To the extent that the great rishis who even have declared in something like Nasadiya Suktam, of course, it is translated as God in English. Does the God even know that he was the one who created or has not created, kind of thing? So it shouldn't be, as I said, equated with God and create, but at the same time, the level of atheistic approach, the theistic in the sense, the ability to question, is ingrained in every scripture that we speak about. It's all about question and answers. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is not tired of Arjuna's questions. He's happy for Arjuna to ask questions. Of course, it's the wrong place. It's the wrong place to ask questions, but still, doubt had to be cleared there. So be proud that Sanatana Dharma is giving you the freedom and the flexibility to think, question without any hesitation. You don't need to worry about what's the other guy going to think about you. All right, so we spoke about the similarity and differences between Sanatana Dharma and atheism. Ralph Everson says the religion that is afraid of science dishonors God and commits suicide. Very true, isn't it?
I'm sorry, quick pause. I'm not able to see the screen. It says just its screen sharing is started.
Okay, let me.
I don't know about others though.
Maybe it's for others as well. Now, can you see?
It's coming up still. It is for me.
We can
what
see
about
it.
others?
Yeah,
Others?
we can see it.
Yeah, you can see.
Okay, I would exit and come back again.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thank
So
you.
the religion that is afraid of science dishonors God and commits suicide. Isn't it? I think that is true. Of course, he says religion that is afraid of science. In actual fact, religion is afraid of science, was afraid of science. That's the result of the Dark Ages. A science which does not bring us nearer to God is worthless, says Simone Weil. In a way, we can rephrase this as a science which does not bring us close to truth is worthless. Or we can rephrase it another way, a science which does not bring us near to understanding who you are as a person or as a philosophical who you are. Whichever way, it's pointless having all the scientific advances just for materialistic progress. I shared this video as well, where Sri Kamlesh Patel ji talks about how it's revenge time for science against religion because religion suffocated science. Please do watch that video as well. He nicely explains. All these are short videos. So now we come to the next phase where we're going to kind of look at ancient proponents of spirituality and modern proponents of spirituality. So in the left-hand side, we can call them as the rishis. Then we have Buddha here, and we can say Mahavira, Jain, the Tirthankaras. Then we have the Greek philosophers. And then we have much later our saints such as Adi Shankara as well. Now these modern proponents, they are not advocating spirituality as such, as in that is not their goal. They were researching things such as related to past lives, reincarnation, and such. So in that sense, they are talking about spirituality. In fact, Michael Newton and Brian Weiss very clearly talk of spiritual concepts in their books and karma as a concept. So on the left, we have Dr. Raymond Moody, a psychiatrist who wrote the book on near-death experiences. Dr. Ian Stevenson is the second one who has written on reincarnation. And the third is Dr. Michael Newton, as I mentioned, about Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls. And the next one is Brian Weiss, who wrote books such as Many Lives, Many Masters, or Many Masters, Many Lives, and so on. Please read all these books. They are brilliant. They are brilliant. So I'm going to ask a question here. So this is actually a temple, Jain temple from Ranakpur in Rajasthan. It's a beautiful temple. There is an article I picked up which is titled as Some Communication Thoughts Through Jaina Philosophy. My question to you is, in modern times, this is how research happens, whereby I, as a researcher, go to my guide or a professor, and I say, this is the area I want to do research on, this particular topic. And my guide says, okay, why don't you do this? You go and do all the literature search, go through all the books, and look at whether this study was done in the past. And then you come back to me, we'll formulate the hypothesis, and then we will initiate we'll formulate the methodology of the study. And of course, once it is done, the results, the data is collected, and then it is published in a peer-reviewed journal, right? This is how modern research takes place. Does anybody think that such a research was possible in the olden times? Was it practiced this way in the olden times? What do you all think?
I think in older times they had tarka or discussions. May not be a methodology and fact finding.
Yeah.
But they had this discussion and tarka for finding out. All
right. Okay. But how about the exact methodology that I'm describing? Was it possible in the olden days? Where was anybody practicing it that way? Anybody wants to take a guess?
Is it Guru Sishya?
Okay, that's the closest you come to, but I'm actually asking about the exact methodology. Literature review, hypothesis, methodology, data collection, publication.
Maybe not. I don't think it is. We haven't heard of at least.
Yes, well, Let's look at the slide. Sridhar says yes, but I'm sure. Let's read through this. Taram Sutaram Tartaram Ramyaka Sudamuditam. Under Taram, the researcher identifies the area of concern, the research problem. Shabda, that is the expert's opinion. So expert approval of the supervisor and determination of the appropriate methodology and possible research design. Sutaram, initial inference through review of existing works, statement of hypothesis or research question, Arthapatti. Tartaram, Upama, collection, comparison, analysis and interpretation of data. Ramyaka, presentation of results in front of well-wishers. Sudha Muditam, submission of the work with a pure mind for contribution to social welfare and possible replication of others. Are you all surprised?
Definitely yes.
Totally, yes.
Unexpected, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
This is the foundation for the richness of all the scriptural work that emanated from Indic philosophical systems. And I am actually currently, I can say that I can vouch for it, the depth of understanding the methodology, the obsessive or the compulsive method that they have adhered to in each and every field, whether it is even poetics for that matter. There is one called Dvanya Loka by Anandavardhana. In Dvanya Loka, the first 2 pages are dedicated to the naysayers. They even use sarcastic language against him, saying, you can't just pick up this concept out of thin air and dance around just like you discovered something great. So this is the level of freedom people had in criticizing each other. And he allows the criticism to be made and then answered in a very systematic way. The entire book is dedicated to how he explains the concepts, to the extent that finally the critics accept that this is indeed a valid concept. That's the how does it come? Just as we have had Tarka as the debating system, how does the debating system evolve? Debating system only evolves to that level of competence when 2 parties have had the preparation, the groundwork, the research into the topic, and they met to establish truth, and the terms are set for a decent debate. We were not killing and beheading people just because they didn't appear to adhere to what I believe in. And that's what Modi's video nicely talks about. They didn't settle matters in a street fight, he says. It was only through discussions and debates of the highest order, he says in his video. This is the video. Please do watch it. It talks about the debate between Adi Shankara and Mandana Mishra. So here we come to another concept called Nyaya Shastra, and how the ancient logical approach helped in appraising the abstract information particularly. When it comes to Atma Vidya, we have to accept that it cannot be captured through senses and cannot therefore be measured. So we have to rely on other methods. Pratyaksha is the best evidence, which is through perception. Whatever comes through the senses, it is the most accurate because every one of us can agree upon it. Anumana is conclusions based on available data. For instance, I see smoke behind a hill, and I infer that it is a fire there. So it is a reasonably good inference because my previous knowledge of it of what a fire is like and what comes out of fire is known, and I'm able to make some conclusions. Upamana or comparison is where there's something I know, but I can only establish the similarity with other by finding the similarities between those two. For instance, I don't know what a Himalaya looks like, but I know what a hill here looks like. So somebody is explaining to me, oh, you don't know what Himalaya is. Oh, Himalaya basically is like how this hill is here. It is a pyramidal in shape. The only difference is that it is a lot more white. So he's given me some comparison there. Shabda or verbal authority is where it is what we call in modern times as editorials. In peer review journals, the experts write editorials. Their opinions expressed by the experts in that particular field. So similarly, let's say rishis or the great gurus, they are the verbal authority on particular subject, and they, or even for that matter, the Vedas, that is Shabda Pramana. So that's considered as a verbal authority. And it's accepted because it comes from an enlightened seer, right? So this is the Shabda Pramana. So these are the four ways in which Nyaya Shastra infers information. As I said, Pratyaksha is the best possible evidence, and that's the most objective. Whereas the rest are a lot more subjective in nature. I'll explain what's subjective and objective in a minute. It is important. All this is very important for our own foundation of Sanatana Dharma. Okay, without counting the reflections, how many dice do you have in the picture?
Cool.
Without counting the reflections.
6.
Anybody else?
6.
Is there anybody who's going to say 5 or a 4 or a 7?
I mean, technically, it could be like 12.
No, not counted.
Reflections are not counted. So 6 is the answer we will all agree upon 100%. No matter how many people, the entire population on this planet comes to see this picture, they will say 6, which means this is the best evidence. The accuracy is 100%. So that's the Pratyaksha Pramana. Can you see the wind?
No.
No. Anybody else? Can you see the wind? Come on, please answer. These are not trick questions.
Yeah, no.
No.
We only see what something is moving. That is the wind.
So I was waiting for that. So we need to complete the whole answer. Yes. We see something is moving, and therefore we conclude that there is wind. Now, this is good enough, actually. This possibly as well brings in 100% accuracy, but based on our prior knowledge, isn't it? So, but still good enough. So this we can say is Anumana, the inference. Where is mind located? The doctors in the group can also answer, obviously. Where is mind located? I'm a psychiatrist, by the way. I should know where the mind is. What do you all say? Not a trick question as well.
I do not know where mind is. That's all.
Do the doctors know where the mind is? Doctors in this group, Dr. Mohan Raj and Dr. Shyamala. Do you know where the mind is?
No, I don't know.
Neither do I. Psychiatrist. Now that's the biggest paradox, isn't it? A cardiologist knows where the heart is. A pulmonologist knows where the lung is. A neurologist knows where the brain is. But the psychiatrist doesn't know where the mind is, and I'm practicing as a psychiatrist. How is it possible? How many of you have a mind? How many of you have a mind?
I do. I have.
I think so.
All of us have a mind. We agree upon that. And how do we know we have a mind?
My psychiatrist told me I have one.
How do we know?
Decision making.
We think, and therefore we have a mind. That's a good enough conclusion, therefore we have arrived at. But the funny thing is, I don't know where the mind is, and in fact, if I go with the dharmic concepts of understanding mind, it would be in one of the koshas, Manomaya kosha, for instance. So its mind is supposed to be outside the body, according to the kosha way of understanding it. I believe I was reading Jaina philosophy. Jaina philosophy says mind, no, I think it's the soul, Atma. It's all over the body, it says. Anyway, so therefore we have difference in opinion as to where the mind is. Of course, from a neurological point of view, mind is understood to be the result of networking of the neurons. That's as good as the explanation is. But biologically, if I do a scan, I can't find mind as such. If I can't find mind, what are the chances that I know there is Atma? Can you actually see, touch, feel, taste, or smell Atma, or think with Atma? Mind itself, we are struggling to locate it. Hardly any chance for Atma, isn't it? What do you all say? I guess if we can't prove Atma, then I think the whole concept of Sanatana Dharma collapses here itself. We can all go home. Can anybody answer this puzzle? How is it possible that we can't even know where Atma is? We can't feel it. At least mind I know because I think, and therefore there is mind. What do I do to know that I have Atma? Is it a fair question?
Is it related to emotions? Because we have emotions. So Atma is there.
How do you know emotions? I can give a biological answer. Emotions actually come from the prefrontal cortex, and amygdala is also important. If I remove those things, for instance, somebody who has a frontal lobe impairment, frontal lobe damage through an accident, their emotions can go quite blunted. So there's a definite biological link there, nothing to do with Atma. And by definition, Atma is taintless. It has no attachments whatsoever. So the argument collapses there.
Is Atma the life?
That is prana, that is described as prana. So that's not...
Your existence itself is Atma. You are existing means you have.
So you are existing because the heart pumps its blood, and as long as it is pumping, the life sustains. Your existence also is possible because the neural network is firing its neurons allowing your all the body parts to function. So I can explain that too. Existence is only possible because of the biological machine that you are.
Sir, I want to say something.
Yes, please.
See, we can't see our own eyes without the help of a mirror.
Mhm.
Similarly, there are some things like Atma also with the understanding of our scriptures. Like it is nothing
How
but
do we know
our
scriptures
Sanatana
are
Dharma.
true? How do we know scriptures are true? We have been fooled by some dogmatic religious books. How do we trust? They are written by people.
These are the books coming from age old, like Ramayana and Mahabharata and Vedas, everything. Whatever our predecessor or rishis are telling, we are understanding. Now it is being discovered that most of the things what we are now inventing are also seen in our Ramayana, just like Pushpak Viman. After so many years, we are now inventing like that. This is also things we have to trust. It will definitely give our understanding. We have Atma and Paramatma.
But I mean, your explanation about everything else, Pushpaka Viman and all that is fine. Like anyway, your point is that because the information has been gathered from ancient time immemorial, and the chances of them, and especially if they have been consistently narrated in different books, makes it a lot more true, is what you're saying. So, in effect, the basic problem we are having here is that unlike the 6 dice, unlike the wind, unlike the mind, we are unable to logically prove the existence of Atma. We have to accept it. And that is the biggest challenge spiritual research will continue to have. This is my point. The reason why we've done this exercise is to drive home the message that spiritual research cannot be based on objective evidence.
Yes.
It has to be based on subjective records. But then subjective records can easily be flawed because I can just make up stories. So this is what we're going to spend tomorrow to talk about. And we will conclude our foundation by tomorrow. And yep, and we'll talk about some very interesting things as well tomorrow. It's already 9:30 now. So let's see what other slides we have. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that's where we will end for today. Any final questions, comments before we close?
Go ahead. So you have a question, right?
I was just wondering, how subjective evidence could dominate objective evidence, because
Did I was wondering. Did I say that?
How you need subjective evidence and over objective evidence. I mean, maybe that's what I understood. Maybe you can clarify for me.
Yeah, sure. Because we are scientists. I think the first day's slides are very important for you to follow, where I said I have two responsibilities. One as a scientist or coming from science background, another from a dharmic background. My science dharma tells me that I would only talk about what I know. I would not claim what I don't know. My Sanatana Dharma hat tells me that I should declare the truth without any hesitation. So both are to be balanced here. So we spoke about how accurate our sensory perception is in inferring data. Nothing beats it. Even Nyaya Shastra says Pratyaksha Pramana is possibly the best way to appraise information. All the philosophies emanating from Indian subcontinent, like the Jaina, Charvaka, Bauddha, Nyaya Shastra, Mimamsa, Sankhya, they all have Pratyaksha as one of the ways of assessing information. But they differ in approach when it comes to the remaining ones. For instance, Charvaka does not accept Shabda Pramana. Jaina does not accept Shabda Pramana. Shabda Pramana is accepted by the Vedic philosophies such as the Nyaya, Sankhya, and so on. Which means that Pratyaksha is possibly unbeatable, and we will never ever discount the importance of it at all. So we are going to be very true to that without any concern whatsoever. Subjective evidence is the only way to appraise spiritual research. That is the point I was trying to make. Objectivity is incompatible with spiritual research.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you.
So shall we bring this to a close then? Yeah? All right. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkhabad bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. All right. See you tomorrow at 8 o'clock India time. Namaste.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Namaskar.
ధన్యవాదం.